Donald Trump has issued an executive order which people are claiming is unconstitutional, suppresses freedom of speech, violates the Supreme Court ruling on the lawfulness, or at least the constitutional protection, of burning the American flag, when I think, vast majority of people haven't read the executive order and or don't fully appreciate exactly what the executive order says. Now, I did an interesting thing here. This was not a question of people's assessment of the executive order itself. This was just to test our locals community, vivabarneslaw.locals.com, how they feel about an outright prohibition, criminal statutory offenses for burning a flag, the American flag, versus Twitter. The results were quite interesting. So I posted this morning. The poll is still ongoing, but you'll get the gist of it when you see this. Burning the American flag. This is our locals community post. Curious to know how the community leans. This is a legal leans, not L-E-A-N-S. Okay, leans, typo, whatever. Do you think burning the American flag should be a criminal statutory offense? Let's just say roughly 30, but 28.8% in our locals community say yes, and 71.2% say no, it should not be. You may or may not have already seen the poll here on Twitter. It's virtually 50-50, but a little bit less. 45% say yes, 55% say no, which means in our locals community, which is above average, on the one hand, people are more pro-free speech, even if they don't like that speech, because at the end of the day, burning a flag is a form of expression. They're more pro-free speech, and I dare say they are more in line with the understanding of the law and or the executive order that Trump issued, which we're going to pull up because people don't seem to have actually read it. Is there an article that I wanted to bring on this? Yeah, I want to bring up the article first, which is Fox News, portraying this as Trump's flag burning order draws rare fire from conservatives. Supreme Court ruled that burning the American flag was protected by the First Amendment in 1989. Are they going to go with the Brandenburg test for that one? Or that was another case? We'll get there in a second. President Donald Trump's new executive order targeting flag burning draw rare criticism from conservatives today. I suspect many of the conservatives who criticized the executive order may or may not have read it, and if they did read it and still criticized, may or may not have understood it. My bottom line conclusion for the executive order, it doesn't do anything that hasn't already been confirmed as lawful. We'll get into the wording. The question then is, what did it do? If it didn't do anything new, I think it's creating a sense of, or it's trying to promote a sense of patriotism and create a sense of not tolerating a lack of patriotism, but making it uncool. But we'll see if it achieves that goal. The executive order announced on Monday directs the Attorney General to prosecute violations of laws involving flag desecration and to pursue litigation that would clarify the scope of the First Amendment as it relates to flag desecration. The order additionally directs Attorney General Pam Bondi to refer flag desecration cases that violate state and local laws to the appropriate authorities. We're going to get into the double standard of the criminality of burning the pride flag, or I don't know what prosecutions have occurred, but certainly the social taboo of burning certain books. We'll get there. The order followed months of protests of American flag burning. Okay, fine. Trump faced unusual pushback from the right on social media after signing the order, as conservatives largely defended flag burning as a First Amendment right, which leads me to believe that those doing that didn't necessarily read the executive order. Quote, banning flag burning is absurd. It's anti-free speech and peak snowflake behavior. I would never burn the American flag because of what it symbolizes to me, but the act of burning it, runs more contrary to American, let me rephrase that, but the act of banning the burning of it runs more contrary to American values than burning itself ever could, evolutionary biologist Colin Wright wrote. And there you have it. Well, it seems that he did read it because he's linking to it. Radio host Jessica said, I would never in a million years harm the American flag, but a president tell me I can't has me as close as I'll ever be to lighting one on fire. I am a free American citizen, and if I ever feel like torching one, I will. This is garbage. Okay. The flag burning is vile, but the government has no right to control speech or expression, radio hosting. It's very funny. We're going to get to the actual wording of the executive order. And at the risk of being a Canadian who errs on the side of free speech, even if you don't like it, and then some people are going to say Viva is a Canadian commie coming down here and saying you can burn the American flag, I can direct you to a country where you can see the radical consequences of the suppression of freedoms and free speech But let's just get to the executive order to see what it actually says. Conservative commentator Eric Erickson. This is actually not brilliant. While I agree with the sentiment, it is unfortunately well settled constitutional law that burning the flag is a matter of free speech, and the executive does not get to create crimes. Another one. I know nothing matters, and you aren't allowed to criticize your own side, but I'd like to return to a time when presidents didn't sign unconstitutional executive orders for show. Okay. Washington Examiner contributor Kimberly Ross. I don't think the federal government should take equity stakes in companies, so I think we agree with that. And First Amendment protections apply to burning the American flag as much as I abhor the action. Follow me for consistently good takes. They're already here. All right, whatever. I think we got the gist here. How long does this go on for? Just taking everybody's positions here? Okay, good. Let me give you that one. And let's get to the executive order. I see a comment that says burning the flag is a direct threat and should be treated as such. Well, it certainly wouldn't pass the direct threat of the Brandenburg test, nor, incidentally, does the executive order seek to prohibit that at all, or at least criminalize that which the Supreme Court already ruled is not criminal. Let's get the executive order. Prosecuting burning of the American flag, and let's just make sure we're looking at the same thing, and we are. Prosecuting the burning of the American flag, the White House. By the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered, listen to this, preambles are important. Our great American flag is the most sacred and cherished symbol of the United States of America and of American freedom, identity, and strength. Over nearly 2.5 centuries, many thousands of American patriots have fought, bled, and died to keep the stars and stripes waving proudly. Everyone in America agree. Well, I should say this. Every patriotic, God-fearing, God-loving, freedom-loving American agrees with this. And the following here, the American flag is a symbol, I love that it's capitalized, in our national life that should unite and represent all Americans of every background and walk of life. Desecrating it is uniquely offensive and provocative. I think it is, but provocative speech, depending on the context, is not criminal speech. We'll get there. It's a statement of contempt, hostility, and violence against our nation, the clearest possible expression of opposition to the political union that preserves our rights, liberty, and security. Burning this representation of the America may incite violence and riot. And here's where we're getting to the nuance of what I think means this executive order is drafted exactly in accordance with the existing constitutional law. American flag burning is also used by groups of foreign nationals as a calculated act to intimidate and threaten violence and Americans because of their nationality of birth. This is adding a specific caveat to the typical flag burning when it comes from certain groups that say support terrorism, say support violence against America. Notwithstanding the Supreme Court's ruling on the First Amendment protections, the court has never held that flag desecration conducted in a manner that is likely to incite imminent lawless action or that is an action amounting to, quote, fighting words is constitutionally protected. We all know about the Brandenburg test. Everybody says, you can threaten violence, but it has to be specific, targeted. I say individually targeted or within a certain realm of a group, temporally specific, and prone to imminent lawlessness. My administration, going back to the executive order, will act to restore respect and sanctity of the American flag and prosecute those who incite violence or otherwise violate our laws while desecrating this symbol to the country to the fullest extent of the law. I'm not defending Trump on this for the sake of defending Trump. I'm not even sure that I'm defending the executive order on this. I'm reading this executive order and I don't see it doing anything that is not already the law of the land. All that they're basically saying is, if we determine your act of burning the flag to be an act of imminent incitement of violence or contemporaneous with other acts of imminent incitement of violence, we'll prosecute it as such. I'm having some difficulty envisaging a situation where burning the American flag is an imminent incitement to violence or lawlessness as per the Brandenburg test. I mean, I can imagine it if you're burning it, using it as a wick of a Molotov cocktail. I can imagine it if you're committing a violent crime while burning the American flag, or assaulting someone and then burning the American flag, or burning the American flag and saying death to blank, death to X, and go and attack. All that this executive order does is verbalize what the existing law is. In my humble former Canadian attorney point of view, take it for what it's worth, people. The Attorney General shall prioritize the enforcement to the fullest extent of our nation's criminal and civil code, laws against the desecration that violate applicable content-neutral laws while causing harm unrelated to expression consistent with the First Amendment. This may include, but is not limited to, violent crimes, hate crimes, which I think many people already very much disagree with. My personal view is all crimes are hate crimes. You punch someone in the face because they're Jewish or black, not much different than punching them in the face because you want their money. And the hate crimes only amounts to politicization of the application of provisions of the criminal code, like we're seeing up in Canada. Set that aside. Illegal discrimination, already illegal, or other violations of America's civil rights, crimes against property, yada, yada, yada. In cases where the Department of Justice or another executive department or agency determines that an instance of American flag desecration may violate applicable state or local law, such as open burning restrictions. So this is, again, not about burning the flag, but about the manner in which the burning is occurring. Disorderly conduct laws, again, which is not unique to preventing flag burning, just the manner in which it's being done. Or destruction of property laws. We can go on. I don't think we really need to go on. I'm curious if anybody thinks that I'm way off base here. This executive order does nothing but effectively repeat existing law. Yeah, you burn the flag in a manner that is violating open burning laws, it's going to be a crime. You burn the flag in a manner that's going to violate disorderly conduct laws, it's going to be a crime. You didn't need an executive order to do that, but what this executive order does is, I think in the mind of he who drafted it, Donald John Trump, reiterate the fundamental quasi, and I don't use this in a bad way, religious importance of the American flag for the American zeitgeist, and to make it back into something that is to be revered. And if anyone's going to burn it, you make sure you do it if you get a protest permit, little perimeter, make sure you're not burning it in Times Square where it might violate local public burning laws or disorderly conduct. And if you do it in conjunction with an act of terrorism, an act of violence, well, that's going to be an aggravating factor in prosecution. But the bottom line, outright banning of burning the American flag, in my humble view, should not occur, has not occurred, and does not exist under this executive order. I think a lot of people were having some knee-jerk reactions to the headlines, which was saying Trump signs executive order banning flag burning when it doesn't do that. Whether or not it's useful or superfluous to be determined, but the executive order itself doesn't do anything that is not already illegal under existing criminal law, and merely reiterates the fact that if any, let's just say foreigners, people on visas, people who might openly support terrorist organizations that pledge death to America, if they burn the American flag under the context or circumstances which might lead to other charges or might be in conjunction with other charges, well, then they're going to have the book thrown at them. And Trump is going to continue with his administration's push to not grant visas to those who seek the destruction of the country granting the visa to it. And it's so stupid. Never. I mean, it's not even never. I wouldn't burn the Canadian flag. I wouldn't. The idea of burning something, A, it's juvenile, but B, to be in the country and then burn the flag of the country that you're in, if you hate it that much, get the hell out. And then that applies. That's not even like a foreigner statement. That applies to locals. If you hate your country that much, if you consider your government to be that much of a treasonous government, that much of a criminal government, that you feel the need within that country to burn the flag, leave if it's that bad. It's nice to have the freedom to burn the flag. I mean, I guess you're exercising your expressive speech. Whereas in other countries that are truly the terrible ones, you would in fact have your hands cut off for burning the flag. You would in fact go to jail and or be killed for burning the flag. There they don't do it. So if you have the freedom to burn the flag, the country of the flag that you're burning is not all that bad. And you might be the baddie. But that's what the executive order says. And I don't think a lot of people have actually gone through the 5 minutes it takes to read it. Yes, if burning the American flag is itself a crime under existing applicable state or federal laws, you will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And whether or not the administration is going to use it as a pretext to go after people, maybe. But using it as a pretext to go after the criminality of people who clearly hate the country in which they live, you may or may not have the sympathy of those who love the country in which they live and love that flag and that for which it stands. End Viva Rant.